Now, the next session we're going to get straight onto, because I know many of you have been looking forward to this, and we're going to explore AI reimagining the future. And I'm really thrilled to say that we have a very inspiring guest to talk us through this topical subject. Please welcome Lady Nicola Mendelsohn, the Vice President of Global Business Group at Facebook.
So I wondered if artificial intelligence could write this speech for me, or at the very least come up with a great opening. So I found a site that promised me inspirational one-liners powered by AI. I gave it a chance, and here's what it came up with. Not bad, but how about some other options? So I gave it a second go. Not quite, I think it's going to take the AI a bit longer, but the fact that I was asking what the AI could do for me, I think is actually quite important, because more and more of us are actually asking that same question. AI is playing an increasingly important role in all of our lives. It's working behind the scenes in our cars, our search engines, our phones, our businesses. And PwC estimates that AI is set to contribute up to $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. But as my little experiment shows, there's still limits to what this technology can do, despite how fast it's developing. So today I'm going to talk a bit about the work we're doing on AI at Facebook, but also some of the challenges that we're encountering. In 2013, we created the Facebook AI Research Group, also known as FAIR, to advance AI for the benefit of all. Since then, FAIR has grown into an international research organization with labs in Menlo Park, New York, Paris, Montreal, Tel Aviv, Seattle, Pittsburgh, and London. FAIR is now part of a larger Facebook AI organization that works on all aspects of AI R&D, from fundamental research to applied research and technology development. FAIR has applied an open model to all aspects of our work, collaborating broadly with many other people and organizations. And our teams publish cutting-edge research early and often, and open source our research code, data sets, and tools where possible. Now, the work that we do on AI at Facebook is vast, but today I want to focus on three themes: connecting people, keeping people safe, and creating the next generation of experiences. AI is what allows our platforms to work the way that they do. It's responsible for connecting each of us to what matters most on Instagram and Facebook. And it's why I like to see the pictures of my kids, or the advert for the clothes I like, articles about politics, and reels about ping pong on my newsfeed. But you might see what's going on at the Reich Museum, or pictures of your best friend's sausage dog. AI is used at scale to predict what type of content each of us wants to see based on the controls and the inputs that we give it. And then it pushes it to the top of our feeds. In essence, it's what allows each of the 3.5 billion people who use our apps and services each month to have a completely unique and personal social media experiences. And it's also what makes our platforms accessible to a wide range of people. For example, we've recently made improvements, which means that the AI can detect and identify a lot more in photos and provide much better audio descriptions for blind and visually impaired users. So rather than the description of this picture here being something basic like, an image of 5 people, it can now be a lot more descriptive and specific. For example, maybe an image of 5 people, including humans, or people playing musical instruments, or people standing, 2 hats, 5 drums. However, AI developments are not just for the benefit of our users. In fact, some of the people making use of our AI technology in the most important and innovative ways, they don't even have social media accounts. Let me take the example of our COVID-19 forecasting. Since April 2020, Facebook AI has been building models and collaborating with experts to help the world better understand the spread of the virus. The COVID-19 forecasts produced by the models give researchers, public health experts, and organizations information about the pandemic that can help them with resource planning and allocation and early outbreak detection. Our models have been consistently among the most accurate out there, and they've been used by response teams, governments, and researchers worldwide to predict the spread of COVID-19. And we've got great examples from New York, New Jersey, and Austria showing how information produced by our AI models improve resource planning for hospitals, ICU beds, ventilators, and masks. And so I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that these models have saved lives. Keeping people safe is ultimately the most important application of our AI. We use it alongside our team of 40,000 people who work on safety and security to identify and remove spam, terrorism, pornography, hate speech, and other policy-violating content. And we have more people dedicated to this than any other company in our space. For the past few years, we've published our Community Standards Enforcement Report, which shows the effectiveness of our efforts in 13 policy areas on Facebook and 11 on Instagram. And we have seen steady progress across many problem areas, making particular progress on hate speech and misinformation. And much of this has been made possible by advances in AI technology. Let me give you some examples. In the first half of this year, our AI helped to block 3 billion fake accounts. Since the beginning of the pandemic, it's also helped us remove more than 20 million pieces of false COVID-19 and vaccine content that violated our community standards, and displayed warnings on more than 190 million pieces of COVID-related content on Facebook that our fact-checking partners rated as false, partly false, altered, or missing context. Meanwhile, we used AI to help over 2 billion people find credible COVID-19 information through our COVID-19 Information Center and newsfeed pop-ups. And AI has also played an essential role in helping us to tackle hate speech. Now, this area is notoriously tricky, and that's because this stuff's really hard. For example, slang is always evolving, and cultural differences can be really hard to interpret. When combating hate speech and harmful content on Facebook, bringing down its prevalence is the goal. It's the primary metric that we should be held accountable to. It represents not what we caught, but what we missed and people saw. We evaluate the effectiveness of our enforcement by trying to keep the prevalence of violated content on our platform as low as possible, whilst minimizing mistakes in the content that we remove. The prevalence of hate speech on Facebook has decreased so considerably thanks to our efforts and the improvements in AI, that there are now 5 views of hate speech for every 10,000 views of content. Yes, it's 5 still too many, but it's progress on where we were before, and we're going to continue to work to get that number down. We now remove 15 times more hate speech across Facebook and Instagram than when we first began reporting it in 2017. And we're now able to remove 97% of all hate speech before it's even reported to us. And so much of what we're able to do in this space rests on improvements and also the investments in AI. Now, I also want to show you a couple of examples of how the AI has got better. In 2020, our AI team rolled out a whole new system for automatically predicting whether content on our platform violates our community standards. It's now capable of doing something that no automated system could do before, and that's looking at content more holistically, including images, video, text, and comments in multiple languages, and evaluating it against multiple types of policy violations. And it can also analyze the content over time based on how people interact with it. Our previous systems for detecting harmful content could do each one's pretty specific thing. One could analyze English language text posts and predict the likelihood they contained hate speech, while another could look at photos and predict the probability that they depicted violent acts. Each could work on one narrow problem area. But with this new system now able to analyze the entire picture on a deeper level, our ability to automatically detect and remove violating content before anyone reports it has increased significantly. So if we take this example here, an image of bullets alone doesn't necessarily violate our rules, and neither do the words in the text. But when our new system sees the two in combination, It recognizes this as potentially being an attempt to sell ammunition, which does violate our rules, and prioritize the post for human review. Now, this ability to analyze an entire picture on a deeper level has significantly increased our ability to detect and remove different types of harmful content. Let me show you another example. Have a look at these two misinformation posts. They look really similar, right? So similar, in fact, that I'll tell you up front what the difference is. The difference is that this picture here is a screenshot of the original. You can see that because of this giveaway here, right at the top. We've developed AI specifically to detect near exact duplicates like this one, which is called SimSearchNet. Once independent fact checkers have determined that an image contains a misleading or false claim, SimSearchNet is able to recognize near duplicate matches so that we can apply warning labels. Now, this is important because for each piece of misinformation a fact checker identifies, there may be thousands or even millions of copies. So using AI to detect these matches also enables our fact-checking partners to focus on catching new instances of misinformation rather than near identical variations of content that they've already seen. And these warning labels are an extremely effective tool to deal with misinformation. And we know that when people are shown labels warning them that a piece of content contains misinformation, 95% of the time, they then don't go on to view that content. So overall, AI research is advancing quickly, and we're getting better and better at taking these new technologies and putting them to use quickly to catch harmful content. However, as we tell ourselves every single day, there is still so much more work to do here. Unfortunately, you would still be able to find examples of where the system failed. We're always trying to stay one step ahead, while the bad actors who peddle this stuff are also trying to do the same. But it will continue to be our priority, and we're confident that we can continue to find new ways to use AI to better protect people. But we're not just using AI at Facebook to improve experiences people are already having on our platforms. We're also using it in exciting new ways to create completely new experiences. And one of the areas we're putting a lot of focus on is commerce. And I wanted just to share a couple of examples. This is the new visual search feature on Instagram that we're currently testing in the US, which is powered by AI. Now, we know that every day people use Instagram for shopping inspiration. And visual search helps people find similar products to the ones that they like in pictures just by tapping on the items. In the future, we're going to make it possible for people to take photos from their camera to start a visual search too. Now, according to research for Millennial and Gen Z consumers, visual search is their most wanted shopping capability. So while it's still in the early days, we think visual search is going to enhance mobile shopping by making even more pieces of media on Instagram shoppable. And this is also just the beginning. We could build on this foundational technology to create new immersive innovations like AI-powered AR glasses that let you shop a window display on your commute, or personalized AI assistants that can complete the look for you. The second example I want to show you is this one here, which we're calling Dynamic Shops. In May last year, we launched Shops, a service that allows businesses to have a virtual storefront living on their Facebook pages and Instagram accounts, where customers can discover, share, and buy products without leaving the platforms. Shops has been a huge success, helping really so many businesses that were forced to close their doors during the pandemic to be able to move online. So there's now over 1.2 million monthly active shops and 300 million monthly visitors. And here we're using the AI to make the experience even more personal. We've just announced that you'll soon be able to update your shop's homepage and order the layout based on a customer's interests and shopping activity. So while this person on your left might see a selection of big plants to buy because that's what she's interested in, the person on the right might see small plants instead because that's what she's looking for. Same shop, different products highlighted. Again, all made possible thanks to advances in AI technology. And AI is transforming not just how we shop, but also how we interact with businesses. No one is enjoying hanging on the phone waiting for someone in a call center to pick up. We want to be able to communicate with businesses in the same ways and with the same ease with which we speak to our family and friends. And so increasingly, we're seeing businesses use a combination of AI chatbots and live agents to answer queries and to also communicate with their customers. And AI chatbots are really producing some great results. Take this example of Haas Energy in Germany as an example. They wanted to make customer service more efficient and more user-friendly. They turned to WhatsApp to provide customer support and send customers messages about bills, meter reading transmissions, and handover protocols. This transformed the customer response time. It had been a 24-hour response time for general inquiries by phone or email, but it was only 1 hour for customers' queries that they received by WhatsApp. But it's not just business that's benefiting from AI technology. In the medical field too, we're seeing AI increasingly used to help with the doctor's decision-making and also to improve patient care. At Facebook, we've been doing some fascinating work to improve MRI scans in collaboration with NYU Langone Health. Take a look at these two images. They look the same, but on the left is a traditional MRI scan, while on the right is an MRI that has been AI generated. Now, traditional MRI scans, well, they're slow to do. They rely on patients being extremely still inside that scanner's narrow tube for sometimes up to an hour. And if you move during the scan, the image might not be clear enough to be useful, which would then mean you'd have to book another whole appointment to come back and do the whole thing all over again. Staying this still is really difficult for anyone, but it can be almost impossible for the very young or the seriously ill. And the time it takes to complete an MRI scan doesn't just make the patient experience more grueling, it also limits to how many patients can actually be scanned on any given day. So Facebook AI researchers have partnered with doctors and medical imaging experts at NYU to solve this problem and to advance artificial intelligence research. They're using AI to create complete images from far less raw data. And since collecting that data is what makes the MRI so slow, this has got the potential to speed up the scanning process significantly. So one day in the hopefully not too distant future, you might spend just a few minutes in the scanner's tube to generate a crystal clear image. Now, this is both amazing and also important work that shows the collaborative nature of our AI development. But there is still a way to go. AI raises many hard questions around issues such as privacy, fairness, accountability, and transparency. And there's also the problem of algorithmic bias, which is not a problem unique to Facebook. But it is a problem we're trying to rectify. And the tech industry as a whole is still in the earlier stages of the journey. We recently built and open sourced a new, unique data set called Casual Conversations, which is a collection of 45,000 videos of people chatting. The subjects are of various ages, skin tones, and genders. The idea behind this is that it serves as a tool for AI researchers to help them evaluate if their model is performing in a fair and inclusive way. Because if we don't train and test AI using a diverse range of examples, then we can end up with unforeseen results, like devices which don't respond to certain ethnicities or genders. Another problem we still face is how long it takes and how labor-intensive it is to train AI in the first place. AI needs hundreds of thousands of examples to learn to do something. And this means that someone's got to teach the machines these hundreds of thousands of examples, which is really time-consuming and also really resource-intensive. Ideally, we want machines to be able to learn the same way that children do, by looking and observing the world around them and learning as they go. And we're moving towards a place where our AI needs less supervision and less human involvement. And I think that's really exciting. Now, one of the latest developments in this area is the work that we're really excited to announce today, which is called Egocentric 4D Live Perception, or Ego 4D. Facebook AI has worked with more than a dozen universities and researchers from all over the world to create the largest ever database of first-person perspective videos of people going about their daily lives. And you can see some of these on the screen now. This database is being used to help train the AI that's behind personal assistants and home robots so that they can better understand the world around us through our eyes, and eventually use this understanding to help with tasks like finding our keys, picking out the best t-shirt for a sunny day, or guiding us through a recipe. Ego 4D is exciting because it's going to enable new research which will pave the way for the augmented reality and robotic systems of the future. So there's clearly a lot of interesting work going on. And what I hope I've shown you today is that not only is AI an important part of our daily lives and the working of Facebook, it's also an important part of our future too. A future that at Facebook, we're proud to be helping to shape. Thank you.